As long as you are willing to try something, you can figure it out. You just haven't figured it out yet. And I want you to think about this. Just because you haven't figured out the win, the WHEN, doesn't mean that you will not get the win, the WIN. And we can end the podcast there. But we're going to keep going. Potential clients, and everyone on the call says something very similar. A lot of people talked about being stuck. Now, that's not new to me because a lot of my clients, past and present, talk about being stuck. And I would say about 50% of my clients use the word in some shape, form, or fashion. They're stuck in the job that they have. They feel stuck. Let me say that. They feel stuck on where to get started in their job search. They feel stuck in the interviewing process. They feel like they're stuck when it comes to just job search in general. They feel stuck. And I wanted to talk about this because I resonate with this topic so much, right? Like the only reason I sit here today and I do what it is that I do, the reason why I coach and the reason why I am a great coach is because I've been there too. I've been stuck. I didn't know, what to do. And so because I've been there, I am now on the other side of that as far as careers are concerned. Now I have a business and I get stuck there, right? We all get stuck at some points in our lives. And you're going to get stuck some point in your career. Whether you are a new grad and you're like, I'm stuck in trying to figure out what it is I want to do. Whether you're in the mid part of your career and you're stuck as an individual contributor and you want to be a manager. Whether you are in a senior level role and you're stuck in figuring out what it is you want to do for the next 10 or 15 years as you look to the latter part of your career. And if you have not been stuck, kudos to you. And for the people who say they haven't, maybe you just haven't been working long enough. But I guarantee you that if you continue to work, you will be stuck, and I use air quotes, at some point in your career. And maybe you're not stuck in your career. Maybe there are other aspects of your life where you feel stuck. And so that's what we're talking about today is I'm stuck, now what? I want you to know that stuck is not about you. Stuck is not personal. It does not mean that you're not worthy of a better career, more money, a better environment, a better boss. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy of any of those things. Stuck is so not personal. It's not about us. But the one thing I want you to know is that you are not indeed stuck. You are not a tree. You are not rooted in where you are today. Right? You can move, whatever that may look like for you. And so that may require for you to do some things that you have not done before. And that's what we're going to talk about today is how to get you unstuck. And what that means is I'm going to probably give about 4 tips is what I can think of. And we may have a bonus one. But the first one starts when we talk about being unstuck is it starts with our mindset. See, a lot of times when we talk about being stuck, we make stuck feel like a fact. Like it seems so permanent. But again, it starts with our minds. The words that we use are so important when it comes to this statement. And the first thing we need to do, again, we have to adjust our mindset. We have to reframe the statement. And so I want you to no longer, you guys, I like to give you assignments and tasks when we talk on a podcast. Like I told you, this is career school, right? So you're doing some work. I want you to reframe the statement, I'm stuck, and say, I just haven't figured out a way yet. It's just like being in a hole. If you were in a well, and it's not that you're stuck in there, you just haven't figured out a way that eventually you're going to figure it out. Marie Forleo has a book called Everything is Figure Outable. And I've been saying that everything is figure outable for the last 10, 15 years. I truly believe that everything is figure outable. You just haven't figured it out yet. And yet is so important and so key, right? You haven't tried everything. And a lot of the times, especially when it comes to our careers, I hear people say, I tried everything. I've applied to 100 jobs. I've applied to 200 jobs. I've done everything. And I haven't got any callbacks. You have not done everything. You may have done a lot of things. And to be honest with you, you probably haven't done a lot of things. You probably have done the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, if I'm being honest with you, my friend. But as long as you are willing to try something, you can figure it out. You just haven't figured it out yet. And I want you to think about this. Just because you haven't figured out the win, the WHEN, doesn't mean that you will not get the win, the WIN. And we can end the podcast there. But we're going to keep going. That was number one. Number one is we have to adjust our mindset. Number two is we have to make adjustments. So I'll give you an example. Here we are, December 1st, 2023, and I'm working with a health coach specifically on food, on my diet. My goal for 2024, I'm putting this out here for the world to hear, is to lose 20 to 30 pounds next year. I have no shame in that. You can hold me accountable if you want to. So we started at the middle of November. I met with her and we went over what am I doing now, so on and so forth, like an evaluation, right? And in that meeting, we went over like my food plan and my calorie intake, my protein, my water, so on and so forth. And so I know daily what I'm supposed to do, right? And when I say what I'm supposed to do, as far as I'm supposed to do in my eating, now we're not talking about even exercise. But I know what I'm supposed to eat. And she didn't tell me exactly what to eat. She just said, hey, eat within this calorie range, right? Now, this is where I talk about adjustments. I know what I'm supposed to do. And even if I'm eating those calories, the macros, which are like my protein, my fat, and my carbs, like I still have to hit those. So as much as it's about hitting the calories, it's also as important to hit the macros for me to get the right amount of protein, get the right amount of carbs, get the right amount of fat. If nothing else, get the right amount of protein. I don't want to get all into the complications of it because I don't know them all. But I use my Fitness Pal, so we're not using anything that anyone else can't have access to. But what I do is I have to make adjustments, right? So every day I'll look at the end of the day. I know what I had and I just had my dinner. And I'm like, okay, I need to put that in for the day. And I log it and it's done. But what I can see is, okay, well, what did I do today? Did I hit my protein or yes or no? Did I go over my carbs, which is a thing for me? More than likely I did, which is something I'm working on, right? But I know I need to make an adjustment for the next day. So what we call this adjustment is an evaluation. We have to evaluate, and I evaluate every day, and I evaluate a lot of things. But specifically for this example, one of the things that I evaluate is what evaluation is. Let me start there. Is just answering the three questions. What worked? What didn't work? And where is there need to be an adjustment, right? For example, what worked may be that I hit my protein intake for the day. What didn't work and what doesn't work a lot of the days, maybe my carbs, my fat, my water intake. What am I going to adjust is going to be, I'm going to, instead of drinking 64 ounces of water on Friday, I'm going to do 80 ounces on Saturday. So willing to make those adjustments. A lot of times when we talk about being stuck, we're not making adjustments. We're not evaluating one thing. We're not like, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what should I adjust? So, for example, bring it to a career example is like what worked. If you're constantly sending the same resume over and over and over again, you have to make that adjustment, right? That's where the adjustment comes in at. You can't say you're stuck in sending out the same resume over and over again and expecting a different result, right? Like you have to, the one thing about making adjustments is making a pivot and not once you make that correction, you shouldn't be making the same, I don't want to call it a mistake, but once you've corrected it, that's no longer your problem or your issue. Now you move on to a different issue, a different problem to solve. So once I make the adjustment with my water, okay, I'm going to use this water container. So I'm making sure that I'm getting at least say 80, 90 ounces of water a day. Now that I have that solution, my water probably isn't going to be an issue. Now maybe it's going to be something else. I'm not going to keep repeating the same problem and expecting a different result. So you have to make the adjustment, but you have to be, when you make the adjustment, you have to stand firm on it and know that, okay, now that this adjustment has been made, to move on to something else. So what that brings me to when I talk about adjustments is to number 3, which is taking responsibility. And so it is easy, and I'll stick with my food example, right? It's easy for me to say, oh, I didn't have, the grocery store ran out of spinach or something happened, right? I got off, whatever. Like there can be all these circumstances that come up. And in the job search, we could talk about, oh, it was the economy is bad right now, so I can't find a job. Or the applicant tracking system is rejecting my resume and it's going into this black hole. Or the manager didn't, in the interviewing, the hiring manager didn't do whatever. Or the recruiter didn't do, like we can come up with all these excuses, but really what we have to do is take responsibility for our results. Like applicant tracking systems and that whole thing, and it's not really what people believe it is. Yes, the applicant tracking systems exist, but they're not this robot that like hides your resume and do all these things. Applicant tracking systems simply just house your resume. In more cases, in 99% of the cases that I know, and I've used applicant tracking systems before as a formal recruiter, like applicant tracking systems house your resume, but a human actually looks at your resume. So it is not the applicant tracking system that is rejecting your resume. It is the human that is rejecting your resume. And you have to write for a human and not write for a robot or whatever we read on the internet, then come up with, and that people provide us with all these theories about why our resume may not be getting us any results. So you have to take responsibility and say, okay, it is not, I've applied for 20 jobs and I've gotten 0 goose egg callbacks. I haven't got any callbacks from a recruiter. So I haven't talked to any hiring managers, etc. Okay, responsibility means I now need to take responsibility and figure out something else that I need to do. Like the resume I have just isn't working. It's just not. I have to take responsibility for that. You cannot go on forever. Again, you cannot do the same thing over and over again expecting a different result. You can't use the same resume for every job and thinking that eventually this resume is going to work for some job. Like it's not going to work that way. You have to say, you know what? This requires for me to make a pivot in the resume. This requires for me to make some adjustments. This requires some type of change for me to do. And I am responsible for making that change, right? This is where you have to, again, going back to the adjustment and evaluating. Okay, what's working with this resume? Something's working. What's not working? Okay, I sent in 20 resumes. I've only gotten 1 phone call back. All right. Well, what did you do right? Like where can you adjust? You figured that out. Same thing if we're in interviews, if we're getting interviews and we're not getting any offers, It's not the recruiter. It's not the hiring manager. It's not that there's a better candidate than you. You have to take responsibility and say, you know what? I went into that interview and I really didn't prepare. I don't even know really the job description because I've been doing this job. I can do it. I can do this with my eyes closed. Yes, but until you get the job, you need to figure out how to articulate your skill set, your value, and you need to work on your skill articulation because that can be the thing that is probably holding you back from getting offers because you have not went in prepared and armed to really execute in interviews. Take responsibility for that. That is not because, again, yes, and you can be 100% qualified and not get an interview. You can be 100% qualified and not get an offer. Yes. Is there a better candidate than you? That's possible. But guess what? The best candidate is not the one that gets the job. That is a fact. The person who goes in, who is armed and can articulate and who can sell themselves is the person that gets the job. That person may not be the best candidate, may not be the star standout employee. They just know how to use their gift, the gab, and their skill set that they have when it comes to communication and being able to nail. They might be great at nailing interviews. Doesn't mean that they're great at their job. So you have to take responsibility for that and say, you know what, I'm going to do the necessary actions that are required in order for me to see the result in which I'm looking to get. So that is number 3. I can go on. I think we've covered number 3. Number 4 is getting help. Ask for help, whether it is a coach, a mentor, a sponsor, whomever. Get help. I know that getting help can be hard. Again, I just told you I'm working with a health coach. Getting help can be hard. The thing about help is that we don't just have to ask for help once. We may not even have to ask for help twice. Help is a continuous journey. Help is continuous improvement. Help reminds me of if you're on the highway, if you've ever been on a highway or you're in your city or town, wherever you're from, and construction is always going on, you're like, they are never done with construction. That's what help is never ending because just like a highway, right? Maybe we're expanding because we're always expanding. We're always going to need help. Help is construction. You're always under construction. And if you aren't, you should always be under construction in some shape, form, or fashion. Maybe it's not your career. Maybe it's your health journey. For me, it's always my health journey. I am always looking to improve my health. I am always looking to get better quality of sleep. I want to be here as long as I possibly can. So I am always looking to improve my health, and nothing's wrong with my health, but I'm like, I know I could be better. I know I can run a marathon if I wanted to. I know I can push myself more, and I want to be at optimal level, whatever that is. I haven't reached it yet. So until I do, there is continuous improvement. I am the highway that's always under construction. Same thing with our minds, same thing with our finances. We're always under construction. And so we are always looking to get help. And so, yeah, you may think when it comes to getting help that I just need help with my resume. And that's it. And I guarantee you, for the person, I've worked with people before I was a career coach, I wrote resumes. And I started writing resumes in 2005, 2004. I wrote my first resume in 2004 for an internship. I've been writing resumes ever since. When I write that first resume, people would come to me and say, I just need a resume. Okay, great. And then people would come to me and they would say, I got interviews, but I didn't get offers. And I'm like, resumes don't get you offers. They get you interviews. Okay, now I need help. Well, how do I get an offer? I'm like, that's your interviewing skills that need help. And so I say that to say that sometimes it's not going back to our job search. Yes, you may think you need help in one area where you may need help in multiple areas. Maybe you have a great resume, but what about your cover letter, which people like to disregard? Maybe you need help with your LinkedIn profile. Maybe you need help with personal branding and executive presence. Maybe it's your job search. Maybe it's interviewing, salary negotiation. Now you have the job. Now it's about managing people, managing up. Like there are things that you need help and support with when you're in a role because what got you here won't get you there. So we constantly need help because the one thing about it all, regardless of where you need help at, whether it's in a job search, in your finances, in your relationship, with your health, wealth, wherever, is that getting help is required and necessary because the person who's helping you isn't emotionally attached to your outcome. And this isn't a bad thing. It's just like going to a therapist. A therapist is biased and they can help you through it because they're holding the mirror up to you and helping you see things that you don't see. So as a coach, I'll use myself as an example. I'm not emotionally tied to the result. I want my clients to get results and my clients do. I'm not going to go there. However, the thing is, I'm not emotionally tied to it. So when people come to me and say, oh, all these things are going wrong, I'm like, no, wait a minute. Let's take a step back. Well, let's talk through this, right? Like the emotions aren't there for me. I can really talk facts and not base things off of emotions. And that is the reason why having someone, coach, mentor, whomever, maybe someone else, but a person who can really talk you through and walk you through some things and they can take the emotions out of it. Same thing for me in my business, right? So I was talking to my significant other about my despite just thinking about it, like my business. And he really doesn't have, he has a idea of what I do, but he's not really in the details of what I do. And we were just having a conversation and one time he was like, oh, you should just do what, and he told me something to do. And I was like, I just looked at him like, wow, because I'm so emotionally attached to this business, he was able to give me matter of fact, hey, try this. Or, yeah, I don't know why you were not doing it in the first place like that. It was an obvious answer to him because he's not emotionally tied to it, right? Like you can go to your therapist and your therapist tell you something. They're not emotionally tied to it. So when people say things, you're like, wow, yeah, that made a lot of sense because we're battling so many other issues in our brains and in our minds that we're not thinking clearly when it comes to so many of the things that are going on, especially in our career, right? We come up with all these other excuses about why things are not working. And then you can have a conversation with someone and say, let me see your resume. And they can look at your resume and just be like, oh, you know what? Let me see the job description. Lay all the facts out to me. Oh, one thing is this. And I saw one person's resume and I was like, you're applying for this job, but this is your resume. Like the resume and the job, there's no correlation here. And you're like, oh, wow. I'm like, yeah, like you are looking at a HR role, but your resume is for the marketing position you're in. Like a recruiter would have no idea that you're not making it connect for them. They're like, yeah. I'm like, see, you've been applying for 50 jobs. And you're like, why am I not getting the HR role? This is why. One, like the other people applying are getting the job because they probably have a resume that speaks to the job description and solves the problem. Your resume is not speaking to the problem because it's not set up to speak to that problem. And so when you're having these type of conversations and when you're getting help and you're getting that type of support, people can see things that you can't see and they can give you information to take action on that you just don't see. Okay. So that is going to wrap up this week's episode as far as like how you can start to get unstuck. So as I get ready to wrap up, I want you to think about what 1 through 4, like mindset, making adjustments, taking responsibilities, and getting help. Which of these 4, and maybe it is all 4 for you, but which of the 4 for you, which area do you need to work on? And so one of the reasons why I wanted to have this topic as we're at the end of the year now, right? By the time you hear this, we'll have 25, 26 more days left in the 2023 year. And I know so many of you wanted to be in a different place in your career this year. And you're like, I was stuck. I am stuck. I've been stuck all year. And you no longer want to be stuck and you don't want to go into the new year stuck. One, again, you're not a tree. You are not rooted in where you stand today. But in order to move and start to figure things out, which of the four do you need to do in order to get unstuck? What is needed for you to find a way out? Like you're in that hole and you're like, okay, you know what? I have to adjust my mindset. I'm not stuck. I can figure this out. Maybe it is around your mindset and the language you use and the words you tell yourself. Maybe it is around the adjustments that you need to make. You're like, yep, I keep doing the same things over and over again. I'm only applying online. I keep keep doing the same thing. I keep using the same resume. I keep talking to the same people. I keep applying to the same positions. Whatever. I'm not making any adjustments here. I'm not doing anything new here. Yes, I'm not taking responsibility and I'm thinking it's all these other things and I'm playing the blame game and I need to start taking responsibility and saying, hey, this is the areas in which I have not made any adjustments and improvement and I am responsible for that. And I'm going to make the changes starting here and starting with this. Hey, I've done all of these things and no matter what I do, none of these things are working and I need to get help. Which of these four things do you need support on? Where do you need help? And if one of those things, if you decide to say, hey, you know what, I just need to get help. Because the one thing about getting help and working with a coach, working with a mentor is that all four of these will be solved. Like when I work with my clients in the Career Clarity Accelerator, we don't just work on one area. We start with mindset. We absolutely do. Where is your mind? Where are you today? Because where you are today and where you will end up in 12 weeks and when we work together is not where you start the end of 2023 is not where you will end up in the end of first quarter 2024. Right? Because we're going to take responsibility. You're going to make adjustments and you're going to work on your mindset. So you can work with and get support and take care of all of these. So if that is what you want to do, I invite you to join me to work privately together right now, one-on-one, and for the next 12 weeks as we get you to figuring out what is working for you, what is not working, and what adjustments do you need to make. Because wherever you are in your career, it is figure outable. And yes, you can figure it out on your own. I guarantee you can. A lot of us can. I can figure out how to lose 20 pounds on my own. But sometimes we need help, we need support, and we need it in more than one way. We need it in multiple ways. If that is you, I invite you to schedule a call with me. It is a 30-minute consult call. It is a 30-minute call where we will work to figure out and answer questions for you about what is currently working in your job search and where are some areas of improvement that you need to make. And what we'll do is we'll put together that plan over the next 12 weeks and get you on the road to being unstuck, get you on the road to figuring things out, letting you know that it is not personal where you are, and nor is it permanent where you are. And you can start to make those changes and adjustments now. You don't have to wait till 2024 to figure it out. You can start this year and go into the new year really armed with information and starting to make those adjustments. So if you want to work with me, the link to schedule a consult, check the show notes below. And I hope that we can talk soon. I look forward to working with you. We have a few more episodes to round out the end of the year. And some of those are going to be around like mindsets. So that's how we're going to round out the year. I hope that you have a great week and I will talk to you soon. Bye.